Hi everybody, welcome back. It is time to talk about my Summerween reading stack. And oh my goodness. Yes! I finally got out of my reading slump. I finally, I don't know, there was something about Summerween that just, I'm going to be talking about this the entire rest of the year. I just had the best time. I read so many books. I blazed through them and had the best time. We're going to talk about every single one of them. And the fashion, the music, the snacks, the food, the activities, it was amazing. I will post a link in the description to my other video about all the things that I did for Summerween. And now I am looking forward actually to reading some beachy things. I'm actually like halfway through Ship of Spells right now. It's a pirate fantasy. I think it's going to end up being a romantasy. Take these off. I think it's going to end up being a romantasy between the main character and the captain, but it remains to be seen. So, but yeah. Got Ship of Spells going on. I've got a couple other summary things that I've got on a list, plus some other books that I'm very excited about. So I'm looking forward to July and the rest of my summer reading time before I have to go back to work. But let's talk about those Summerween books, because man, do I have some awesome recommendations. So let's start with Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This was on my original list to read when I posted my Summerween TBR. It's extremely well written. Anything by V.E. Schwab is going to be extremely well written. It is about two male students who kind of bicker over their thesis projects, and one of them really wants his thesis project to be this kind of very out-of-the-box controversial thing, and then his roommate kind of gets wrapped up in it and then wants to be better at it. They basically start this academic rivalry that ends in unalive bodies and lots of drama. For me, this was a wonderful Summerween read. It was definitely had all the spooky vibes and the dark academia and just the kind of suspenseful thriller I was looking for. It wasn't my favorite though. I did really blaze through it and the story kept me captivated, but not, I don't know, I'm not dying to find out what happens next. I'm really glad that I read it and it's an excellent Summerween vibe. I just don't know if I'm going to end up picking up the second and the third book. I don't know. Next we have A Wolf for a Spell. This was adorable. It is told in 3 different perspectives. A wolf's perspective, Baba Yaga, which is a famous like Russian witch mythology character, and a young girl who grew up in an orphanage. And basically Baba Yaga is trying to undo a mistake that she made several years ago, and it involves this young wolf named Zima and this young girl from the orphanage. They all kind of get interwoven together. I loved how it went back and forth between the different points of view based on the chapters. I also really enjoyed that it was written in third person point of view. I feel like it's so rare nowadays to get a third person point of view. A lot of books these days are first person point of view, and eventually they all start to run together. Like it could basically be the same character telling you just a different story in a different universe, in a different world with different magical abilities. But at the base, at the end of it, it's all the same character. So it was a breath of fresh air to have third person point of view. This one also had, yeah, this was also told in third person, which is excellent. I also really loved in here, now this is a young adult novel. I would say this is for like middle grades. It's a short little chapter book and it had really adorable pictures. But it's basically like Brother Bear or Brave set in Russia. That's what this book is. But it's absolutely adorable. 100% I would recommend this to my students. On the back it says it's recommended for ages 8 to 12. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Not on my original list is the Green Kingdom. I saw this as I was decorating for Summerween, and it's got really great sprayed edges. And I was like, oh, this is Cornelia Funk, who wrote Inkheart. This is going to be magical. This is going to be got a little bit of whimsy and spookiness in it, and it's going to be fantastic. And it was absolutely fantastic, and it was short, so I added it to my Summerween list. However, there was no magic in here. There was nothing out of the ordinary. There were amazing pictures. This again is a middle grade type of novel. But it was about a young girl who is forced to spend her summer in Brooklyn instead of in Maine with her friends. And she discovers the love of plants. While she's in this house, they're renting this Airbnb, and she discovers a dresser that has this drawer, and she opens this drawer, and there's a huge bundle of letters inside. She starts reading the letters, and it's between two sisters, and one of the sisters is writing to the other, giving her clues about different plants. And so the main character then solves these clues and starts looking for these different types of plants and starts exploring the city of Brooklyn by looking for these plants. And so you, the reader, are trying to figure out the clues as well as she is, and then you learn about the different plants and experience the magic of Brooklyn and how a community really raises a child, really. So it wasn't magical in the sense of fantasy, but it was really magical in that it had plants, which that's an automatic win for me. It had plants. It had this found family kind of vibe, and it had just the magic of growing up in the summer and trying to find things to do and experience your world in a new way, with little mysteries. Every single chapter was a little mystery as you tried to solve what plant they were talking about. It was perfect. This next one was also added on as I was decorating for Summerween. This is Hopeless Necromantic. It showed up in my June Book of the Month box, I believe. It's my June or May Book of the Month box. And I was like, oh, well, that's perfect for Summerween. Look at that. It's got the pinks. It's got the light greens. It's got skeletons and cute little potions. This is perfect. Unfortunately, I'm happy I read it. I wish I hadn't paid money for it. It definitely had a Summerween vibe. But yeah, it was meh. I could take it or leave it. It is the first book in a series. I highly doubt I will pick up any of the rest of the series. So this dude right here is a necromancer, and he has gone through a lot of trauma over the past couple of years. A lot of trauma. And he lives in this kingdom that is in this constant war with this crazy other sorcerer who used to be his best friend forever. And so there's been a lot of trauma with that friendship, with the consequences of that friendship. So then she comes along, and her job is to bring him back to the castle, to the queen, because the queen desperately needs him to go fight his former best friend. And so they go on this quest, basically, together, and ultimately deal with the best friend. There is lots of magic in here. There is lots of silliness. The best character is this individual, the skeleton over here. He is worth reading the book for. Unfortunately, that's not enough for me to continue with the series, but yeah, this is the character that you're actually going to care about. These two right here, take them or leave them, for me anyway. And the female character, her name is Helspira. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And unfortunately, I have a brain that associates words and phrases with music. I also get songs stuck in my head really, really badly. So the entire time I was reading this book, the entire time, every single time I saw her name, I would instantly start singing in my head the Frollo song from Hunchback of Notre Dame, the old Disney animated movie. And it just, whoa, it just tore my brain down to continue reading this. It could have been just the fact that that song was constantly stuck in my head. Could have been that I just wasn't a fan of this novel in particular. Um, but I think it's gonna find its audience. I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty cute. This was one of the add-on books for Book of the Month. This was not one of their actual selections. It had the perfect Summerween vibe, just not for me. Then we have Red Belly Crossing. This was on my original Summerween TBR list. I blazed through this. Oh man, I blazed through this. This was another add-on. I'm pretty sure this was another add-on for Book of the Month Club. This was not one of their official picks. It is about two brothers in Australia. They are both police officers, and they do not have a relationship with each other anymore. They have not spoken to each other in several years due to significant childhood trauma involving their father, who is a former police officer. And man, this was wild. They are assigned the same murder case in the small town where they grew up, and they have to come together to solve what's going on. And man, it is twists, turns, this way, that way. It is chock full of, it is the most unhinged thing I have ever read. Because this was written as something that was in the realm of possibility, this could, everything that happens in this novel could actually happen to people in real life. Whoa. It was the most unhinged thing I've ever read. And I devoured it, I think, in less than 2 days. I highly recommend for adults. Highly recommend this for adults. If you are into the thriller, suspense, murder, mystery type of vibe. If you are not, this is not for you. But yes, this was an excellent read. It almost became my top read for the month of June. It was a really great palate cleanser from all of the fantasy that I have been consuming in all of the magical stuff. Excellent. Then we had Howl's Moving Castle. Now, this was not on the original Summerween TBR list, and you are probably thinking to yourself, I've seen you talk about this book before in a different video for a different list, and you would be correct. I originally picked out this book for Magical Readathon back in April because one of the classes that my character had to take, the reading prompt for that class was to do a reread. And so I chose Howl's Moving Castle because I had just bought this beautiful edition from Barnes and Noble, and I was like, awesome. I can reread this. This will be fantastic. I can knock out one of my classes. And then I started rereading it, and I got about 65% of the way through, and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how much I don't like this book. And April was one of those months that I did really badly getting through books. I was just super distracted. I just couldn't focus. I couldn't sit down and just kind of read. And so I really didn't do well, and I actually didn't, my character didn't pass. I failed 2 classes. This class and Elemental Studies, where I had to read a book with a temperature word in the title, and I chose a chef's memoir called Heat, And while it is an excellent inside look at behind the scenes in becoming a chef, it I had to slog through it, and I think I'm maybe 30% of the way, maybe less than that, and I've barely touched it since. And it was very similar to this. I kind of sped read through like the first half of like, gosh, I forgot how much I don't like this book. I so prefer the film. And and then I was like, you know what? I only have like, 35%, 40% left of this book. It's Summerween. This is about Howl, one of the best wizard characters. It's about Calcifer, the fire demon. It's about a moving castle. We gotta finish this for Summerween. So I did. It's also on Kindle Unlimited. So basically what I did was, for a couple of nights before going to sleep, I would have my Kindle up and I would read until I just kind of fell asleep and the remote fell out of my hand. And that's how I finally finished Howl's Moving Castle. So this was finished, and I just the ending just gets so convoluted and complicated, and it's just like, blah. Movie is better. But yeah, I finished that. Now let's talk about Bitten. I have a major issue with this book. This book is marketed by Little Brown as young adult. It is marketed as a YA novel. And I thought maybe it was just me. So I went and I looked on Fable and Goodreads. It is not just me. Multiple people have an issue with this. This is marketed as young adult. And yet, to me, as a teacher who teaches and has taught 10 to 14-year-olds for 8 years, this is extremely inappropriate as a young adult novel. Young adult to me, though, I think kind of spans from 13 to 17, 18 years old. That's the type of audience I think you're looking for when you say something is young adult. This is not that. When you have underage characters involved in explicit romance scenes, no, that's not young adult. When you have extremely graphic descriptions of violent things, no, that's not young adult. You can write about those things. You can write about explicitly graphic violence without it being explicitly graphic. You can write about romance scenes between underage characters without being explicit, without all of the details, without all of the vocabulary. And I'm not trying to muzzle anybody's artistic expression. I'm not trying to say that this shouldn't have been published, that it needs to be censored. I'm saying you marketed it wrong. You marketed it wrong. This is not for young adults. If anything, unless the young adult market is now 18 to 21, sure, that's who this book is for, 18 to 21. It is not for anyone younger than 18. The main female character is 17 and the main male character is 20. To me, that is not and the situations that they are involved in are just not appropriate for young adults. They're just not. You could have easily changed the characters' ages to 18 and 22. You could have made them 21 and older, and it wouldn't have lost any of the it wouldn't have lost anything if you had changed the characters' ages to be more appropriate to the level of maturity that you're writing at. It wouldn't have changed anything about the book. The book wouldn't have lost anything. If you had taken away the extreme graphic violence, how the violence was described, how the romantic situations were described, it would have taken away from the book, yes, but it would have been appropriate to the group of people that you are marketing for.
Hi, I just needed to add in a couple more things about this book. I did not mention earlier that this book does not contain any type of content warnings in the beginning pages of the book. This is something that has been going on in the publishing industry for a couple of years now, at least, if not even more. A content warning is a page before the book starts stating what material could be upsetting to readers. This book does not include that page. I would not have read this book if there had been a content warning page saying that there was underage, explicit romantic activity within the pages. It would not have been of interest to me, and it would have been a better decision by the publishing company to include that. It is not okay for the publishing company to not include when there is underage explicit material within the book for both young adult readers and for adult readers. It's unacceptable. And I want viewers to know that is an important issue for me as a reader. Why the publishing company did not choose to include a content page stating that there was explicit romantic material in here, as well as significant graphic violence and trauma, I have a lot of questions for them. Also, why the publishing company didn't tell their author to change the female main character to 18 years or older, I also have a lot of questions about that. There are things that need to be changed within our publishing industry to make sure that these types of books are labeled appropriately. They don't need to be censored, they don't need to be scrapped. They need to be marketed and labeled so that readers understand what they are putting in their own hands and what they are being exposed to. Thank you.
This is a CW show waiting to happen. 100%. This is a CW show waiting to happen. This is Veronica Mars meets Vampire Diaries with werewolves. 100%. You could absolutely market it that way as a CW TV show. There are also huge parts of me cringing with horror because I would not want any of I would not want anybody under 18 to pick this up and be like, this is appropriate, because it's not. All right. So then on my Kindle, I finished a book that I had started previously. It was called Toil and Trouble. It was a collection of short stories that were extremely well written and exposed me to a lot of diverse voices, which I really enjoyed. It's 15 tales of witches and things like that, mostly told from a modern day perspective, which was really cool. I think there were like 2 or 3. I was just like, that didn't hit for me. But otherwise, absolutely wonderful little collection. It is available on Kindle Unlimited, and I highly recommend it. Great stuff for adults. My last novel of Summerween, I wanted it to kind of have the spooky, suspenseful vibes of being, you know, the ween part of Summerween. But I didn't want it to be the usual, like I was, after reading Bitten and Hopeless Necromantic and Wolf for a Spell and Vicious, I think I read all 4 of those back to back to back to back. I was kind of burnt out. I was like, I need something different, but I still wanted to feel Summerween. So I picked up Salt Crop. Oh man, this was definitely uh the spooky, tense, suspenseful vibes without being the magical mysticalness. So Salt Crop is a cli-fi novel, which is a newish type of subgenre where it is science fiction, but it's based on climate change. The plot has to do with climate change. There are quite a few of these novels that are really making the rounds, particularly this one back here, Wild Dark Shore, was a book of the month pick, and it took off. I see I see that one everywhere. I'm still not pointing at it. I see Wild Dark Shore everywhere, and I want to say it won book of the month. Did it win book of the month for the year? It was definitely nominated last year for book of the year. And it was the March 2025 pick. I know it was nominated for book of the year. It may have even won. I'll have to check that. But this is Wild Dark Shore. Everybody is reading this right now, or read it last year, and it got a lot of buzz. This one is very similar. We don't know where we are, really. I pictured it as kind of the middle top part of California. Three sisters have lived with their grandmother after their mother passed, and there's lots of stuff going wrong with the world due to climate change. They grew up with their grandmother, and things started to go wrong with planet Earth. There's famine, there's drought, things like that, and basically the only way that you can grow food is by buying this chemical, this pink chemical, from a company called Renewal. And basically, Renewal has the only way to grow any type of crops. And the blight hits everything, it kills everything. It's constantly adapting, it's constantly evolving, and it's constantly going after the next thing in seeds. Renewal comes out with these blight resistant seeds, and then the next season the blight comes in, takes out those seeds, and then you have to buy new seeds, and da 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 da. And so there's this constant famine, there's this constant, hunger, trying to make ends meet, trying to get it all together. And these girls grow up in this world. Well, now the oldest sister is away in the big city. She's working for Renewal. And the middle sister also works for Renewal, but within the town where they grew up. And the youngest sister takes care of the grandmother in her old age and basically just tries to survive. She's a picker. She goes out in her boat and she goes to the garbage patch that's out in the Pacific Ocean, and she picks out garbage that she can then sell in order to make some type of money, and they just do the best they can. Well, the oldest sister, Nora, disappears. She decides to leave the big city and go looking for answers in terms of the famine and the blight and the crops and things. And suddenly she's just fallen off the face of the planet. And so the two other sisters, the middle sister and the younger sister, decide to get into their boat, and they're going to go try to find out what happens. This has a lot of suspense to it. It's extremely well written. It moves at a very good pace, and there are quite a few twists in here that really have a lot of commentary on kind of like what the future may hold, corporations, what do we do as a society when things start to go wrong? How do we react as a society when things go wrong? What's going to happen to government and the establishments that we have to make a well civilized society? What happens to those things when all you're worried about is keeping food on your table? It was an extremely well written novel. I highly recommend it, and it was a great way to end Summerween in a very different type of feeling, but still kind of keeping with the main set of books that we have. So I highly recommend. I don't think enough people are talking about this book, and it needs to be discussed 100%. It needs to be read, and it needs to be making the rounds. I really, really enjoyed this. It was published in, I want to say like 2 years ago. No, 2025. So it was published in 2025, and it has all the makings of probably going to be turned into a film at some point. If it's not, I'd be highly disappointed because it definitely has the ability to be turned into a film. It's got with the boat and everything, and kind of just the overwhelming sense of emptiness and what do we do and how do we fix this. It reminded me a bit of Life of Pi, and I think it could be turned into an absolutely beautiful film that has a lot of things to say about what's going on in our world right now. So yeah, that is my Summerween reading list, or Summerween reading that I accomplished. And I was so happy because I really read a lot in a short amount of time. This month was the most that I've read all year, but also it's the most that I've read in quite a bit of time. So I was very, very excited about that. I think Summerween and looking for that theme and looking for that that type of ambiance and atmosphere from a book that I really, really enjoy really got me back into picking up books and wanting to read more and dedicating more time to reading instead of scrolling or watching TV or whatever it was that I was doing. I think most of May I just stared at a wall pretty much because that was all my brain could handle. So yeah. So next up is going to be Ship of Spells. I also picked out some really summery books that I have actually kept on a shelf for a while, waiting for summer reading, and beach vibes. I picked these up, I feel like last year, and I was like, I need these for summer, and then I didn't get to them, and so I've been saving them, and I pulled them out. I saw them the other day, and I was like, aha! We're gonna read those. So yeah. Anyway, this is my last Summerween video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you have not started Summerween yet and you're going to be one of those people that do it in July, A, I'm judging, but B, here are some wonderful recommendations for you to put on your Summerween TBR list. And if you want some activities and some recipes and some ideas of how you can celebrate your Summerween, if you are one of the people that do it in July, please check out the video of all my activities that I did over Summerween. And I am so excited for next year. And I am so excited for October because there will definitely be more spooky vibes going on then. And I have planned it all out. See you next time, and thank you so much for being here.